All right, here we go. Welcome to the Nebraska School Activities Association Football Playoff Bracket Release. I'm Tony Chapman, NEBPreps.com and Strive Sports, joined with the man, the myth, the legend, Mike Sautter. As we dive into the playoff brackets today, the first bracket we're going to be releasing is the Class D1 bracket, then there'll be the Class D2 bracket, followed by the Class A bracket pairing. We're going to start with the west side of Class D1, and that is the number one seed is Burwell. They are 8-0, and they will play the 16 seed North Central. Arcadia, Loop City, and Amherst are the 8-9 seeds. They had a tiebreaker. Amherst won the tiebreaker, and they will host that game. The 5 seed is Nebraska Christian. They will host Hemingford. All these games will be played on Thursday, October 22nd. Yep. The 4th seed is Elm Creek. They will host Hitchcock County. The 3 seed, Neely Oakdale, and the 14 seed, Elkhorn Valley. Neely Oakdale will host that game. Highline will host Southern Valley, the Bulls, in the playoffs as the 6th seed in the West. Sutherland, the Sailors, will host Cambridge on Thursday in the 7-10 game. And in the final game there in the west side, it's Anselmo Myrna at 4-4. They will travel to Dundee County Stratton at 7-0. Mike, any quick thoughts? We've got some ranked teams on that side of the bracket, especially the two that pop out, the top 2 seeds, Dundee County Stratton and Burwell, who met in the semifinals last year. I'm
interested in the Sutherland-Cambridge game.
Yep.
That one I think is pretty interesting. Full disclosure, I went to Sutherland my sophomore year, and I'll never forget breaking Cambridge's very long win streak in the quarterfinals. So that one just brings back memories after just looking at it. But I think that's one of the more intriguing matchups. Obviously, you have Arcadia, Loop City, and Amherst in that 8-9 game that was a tiebreaker, and you just didn't know, what to do.
And so, Arcadia Loop City is a team that they started with 2 losses the first 2 games of the season. Their only loss since then is to Burwell, which was a one-score game here a couple weeks ago. So a lot of people believe Arcadia Loop City could be a team that might be able to pull off a few upsets or advance a little bit into the playoffs. A couple notes. A little change in the 8-man playoffs this year, so we'll release D2 as well here pretty soon. But after these games in the East and West are finished on Thursday, they're going to go in and reseed the 16 remaining teams. So you're not going to have East-West anymore. So I guess what we're telling you is that Burwell and Dundee County Stratton aren't going to potentially
necessarily be in the semi. Yeah,
correct.
Not like the lat. Well, for as long as forever.
Yeah. Now. So how's it been? So what we can tell you is in the top 16, the Burwell is the 3rd seed overall. Dundee County Stratton is the 4. Neely Oakdale is the 6. Elm Creek is the 7. Nebraska Christian is the 10. Highline the 12. Sutherland the 13. Arcadia Loop City are 14, and Amherst are 14 and 15. So you've got one of the teams that's actually in the top 16 is not going to advance to the top 16. So we'll have an East matchup that has 2 teams outside the top 16, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Eric, are you ready? We can flip over to the east side of the bracket. He says yes. So the number 1 seed over on the east side is Tri-County. They're the number 1 seed overall. They will play Southern in the first round on Thursday. The 8-9 game is Humphrey-Lindsay Holy Family, who's actually moved up from 6-man. They're playing 6-man the last couple of years. They will host Lord Central Catholic. I believe we'll have a doubleheader in Humphrey on Thursday when we release that D2 bracket. The 5 seed in the East bracket is Weeping Water. They will host Freeman. The 4 seed is Lutheran High Northeast. They will host Elmwood Murdoch in the first round. Stanton is the 3 seed. They will host Exeter Milligan Friend, who is the 14 seed. The 6th seed is Thayer Central, the Titans. They will host Laurel Concord Coleridge. I think that's an intriguing matchup in the first round. And then the 7-10, another intriguing one, Guardian Angels Central Catholic, who plays in Beamer. They will host Howells Dodge in the first round.
Don't have to drive too far.
Not too far. Those will be 7 o'clock kicks, I'm sure. And then Clarkson Lee, this will be a regular season rematch.
Right.
They will travel and play undefeated Cross County, who is the two seed
overall,
on the east side. So, again, you look at those. Again, those aren't going to necessarily funnel to a semifinal, but some teams you're watching on that east side, Mike.
Obviously, Howells Dodge, that Guardian Angels and Howells Dodge matchup, I think, is very intriguing. It's a bit obviously of a rivalry because just location and play each other and all that. Clarkson Lee Cross County is a rematch. Cross County kind of handled that one the first time, so not a lot there. The Humphrey thing is pretty interesting with Lords. I like that game, and it's a good matchup, and maybe that's a Thursday night trip to Humphrey.
Yeah, there you go.
Afternoon night trip to Humphrey.
Yep,
we'll see.
You could double dip on the field turf there in Humphrey. So what we can also tell you then, Tri-County is the overall 1 seed in the Class D1 bracket. Cross County is the number 2 seed. So even though they're on the same side of this East bracket, they would actually not meet until the finals. Yes. They would not meet until the finals if they were to both advance out of this first round.
Which, if you look at it, Burwell is a Cross County Burwell matchup. If it potentially happened in the semis, would be fantastic.
Yeah, and then you have Dundee County Stratton, who is the overall 4, and they would funnel into Tri-County as the 1. So some really interesting matchups there. The other interesting piece to look at, Mike, here is at the bottom of the bracket. So you look at Arcadia Loop City and Amherst; they will play each other.
Right.
The winner of that, unless something were to really, there's going to be other upsets in the first round, is kind of geared into the 15 seed. Right. But if somebody below them were to win, that could obviously change. Guardian Angels, Central Catholic, and Howells Dodge, the winner of that game is kind of locked into the 15 seed again, unless there's an upset below them that would happen. So there's really a lot to play here as you look at these first round matchups.
If Howells Dodge were to win that and Cross County were to win and the seeds hold and all that, as far as Cross County being 2, that would be a rematch.
Very possible, yeah. You'd have very possible that Howells Dodge Guardian Angels winner could go to Tri-County as the 16. They could move up to the 15 if there were to be an upset in behind. So there's still a lot of fluidity in this bracket. So really all we know is these first round matchups right now. Yeah. Then what's going to happen is next Friday, after all these games are complete, those teams will be reseeded. They'll be reseeded statewide, the 16 winners, and those will be placed on a 1 to 16 bracket, and then we're set all the way to the finals. But again, the 1 seed overall in D1 is Tri-County, the 2 is Cross County, the 3 is Burwell, and the 4 is Dundee County Stratton. Then the next 4, if you want to go looking at possible that could get a second home game, Stanton is the 5, Neely Oakdale the 6, Elm Creek the 7, and Lutheran High Northeast is the 8 seed. So that's the D1 bracket, the district qualifying round, the first round, whatever you want to call it. Then again, into that 1 to 16 reseed. And we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to go work on the D2 bracket, get that released, and then we'll come back and have the Class A bracket here shortly on the NSAA football bracket release show.
Truck Center Companies, keeping America's truck industry on the road.
It's thanks to you that we're where we are today. We're proud to watch these communities grow because they're our communities too. Our neighbors, our friends. It's where we live. These are all our hometowns. And no matter what, the people who will continue to serve your needs with the hometown support you know and trust are just down the street. Cornerstone Bank. Growing together.
Midland's mission is to inspire people to learn and lead in the world with purpose.
right, we are back here on the NSAA bracket release show. We're moving into D2. Appreciate your patience with us as we build these brackets today and get them from NSAA staff. We'll start with D2 West here, Mike, and Central Valley is the 1 seed in the West. They are undefeated. They will host Blue Hill on Thursday afternoon. The 8 seed is Garden County. They will host Medicine Valley, 6-2 versus 7-1 there in that 8-9 game. And the 5 seed is Loomis, the Wolves, 7-1. They will host Layton. A little road trip there. That'll probably be an afternoon game.
Yeah.
The 4-13 is a week or last night rematch as Kennesaw will host Palmer. Once again, Palmer traveled to Kennesaw last night. The 3rd seed in the West is O'Neill St. Mary's, 8-0. They will host Sandhills Valley at 4-4. The 6th seed is Pleasanton. Pleasanton won this West bracket last year, went all the way to the state finals, and they've got one of the better playmakers in the class, Tice Westland. They will host Mullen, a tradition of Mullen at 6-2. The Broncos will travel to play Pleasanton. The 7th seed is Riverside at 3-3. They will host 5-3 Ansley Litchfield. And the 2 seed is Sandhills Thedford, who got a big win last night over Pleasanton, I believe 77-24. And they will host Axtell in the 2-15 game. So that is your West side in D2 in the qualifying round there. Quick thoughts on Mike? You see anything there, Mike?
Yeah, the potential or the Pleasanton Mullen game that's the one you would kind of stop there on that one for a reason, and I think that one's probably the most intriguing game in that bracket for sure.
I was able to see Central Valley play last night. They have a really nice team.
Big win last night.
Coach Jess Rother. They beat Humphrey St. Francis last night. Held St. Francis to 71 yards rushing on 38 carries, and you know how well St. Francis likes to run the football, what they were able to do defensively. Central Valley is a team that's built for a run here in these D2 playoffs. So remember again, just like with D1, this will be a reseed of the 16 winners after this round on Thursday. So Eric, are we ready for the east side of the bracket here in D2, which is led by guess who? Fall City Sacred Heart. They're 6-1. Their loss actually is to BDS, who's going to be the 2 seed on this side. But Fall City Sacred Heart will host Fullerton on Thursday. The 8-9 game, always those 8-9 games have been really intriguing. Another one comes up as Osmond will host Creighton in the 8-9 game there. Humphrey St. Francis that we just discussed, 7-1. They will host Niobrara Verdigris. And again, Mike, you mentioned that might be a trip for you, a little Humphrey doubleheader, 2 home games there for their schools. The 4 seed is undefeated Allen. They will host Johnson Brock in the 4-13 game. And up north again in the 3 seed is Why Not. Why Not will host Windside. Why Not shows 5-1 as their NSAA record, and their loss is to Humphrey St. Francis. The 6th seed, who I think might be one of the most dangerous teams in the bracket, is Osceola, undefeated, and they will host 11th seeded Pender on Thursday. The 7-10 game is Bloomfield. They will host Meade, 4-3 versus 4-4 there. And then Bruning Davenport Shickley that we already mentioned. They will host Elgin Public Pope John on Thursday afternoon. Quick thoughts on that one, Mike, and then we'll go over kind of the overall seeding.
Yeah, you have the top. I was just going to touch it. You have the top 2 seeds in D2 in Fall City Sacred Heart and BDS, both on that side. Why Not is the 4 overall if you go by wildcard points, seed 2, and they're in that side. So the East, obviously, I think looks a little bit more difficult of a road. Looking at it, obviously you're going to reseed it, but I just think that bracket's a little tougher. The most intriguing game is that Creighton-Osmond game. They're right by each other in wildcard points. That should be likely the most competitive game of the D2 games, or that side of the bracket.
There's some intriguing stuff as I look through these top 16 seeds. Sacred Heart and BDS, if they can stay away from each other to the finals, that would be interesting. The top 6 seeds actually balance out 3-3, East and West. So you've got Central Valley is the overall 3, Sandhills Thedford the overall 5, and O'Neill St. Mary's the overall 6. Where I'm intrigued is down below that. Humphrey St. Francis and Osceola slot into the 8-9 seeds, which then would slot into a possible game with Fall City Sacred Heart. So barring any upsets of those, say, first 10 seeds,
Right.
You've got some interesting stuff going on there. Another team that I really like is Kennesaw. Their only loss is to Bruning Davenport Shickley. They are the 10 seed. So you look at a Kennesaw, a Bloomfield as an 11, and a Pleasanton and Loomis out there at 12 and 13, and they could maybe cause some problems for a Wynot or a Sandhill Stedford or a St. Mary. So that'll be interesting to see how the bottom half of everything shakes out. But man, if you've got Sacred Heart, St. Francis, and Osceola right there, that could be some interesting. Osceola Sacred Heart, if that were to happen, or St. Francis Sacred Heart, if that were to happen, that's too soon. So we'll be talking about a seating committee here in a little bit in Class A. So this is maybe one where you might argue that when this reseed hits and it shuffles, would these 8-man schools or even the 11-man schools we talk about next week want to go to possibly a seating committee as these playoffs advance? So
it's a little extra work for some people to do that.
It is a little extra work, and it shows too. This year is such a unique year.
Right.
You've got some teams on here with 6 games. Some teams got all 8 in, and so the points did have some effect on this. And then sometimes too, you just get dealt a schedule that you thought might have been tougher and it wasn't.
Right.
Bellevue West had that happen a couple of years ago. Osceola is kind of in that place right now. It's 7-0. They did everything they were asked to do.
They're the
maybe
team
that
they're the scary one. Like if you look outside of the top, I guess 3 for me. Osceola is the scary one. Like that's the team that you probably don't. Them and St. Francis just been there, done that, right?
Our NEB Preps rankings, I have them as my number 2 team overall behind BDS. So for them to be a 9 seed, they're going to be a tough out.
They're the scary one. They're the scary one. And I know maybe some people, around Bruning, Davenport, or Shickley might not be too happy with being the 2 overall, but it's wildcard points. That's how it is. They beat Sacred Heart and beat them decently. So a lot of people look at that. But as long as I think those 2 are on the opposite sides, it'll be,
And you look at the points this year again with teams playing so many different amounts of games. Less than a point separated Fall City Sacred Heart from Sandhill Stedford, who is the 5 seed. So a lot of parity there, but some great players in this class. I know BDS. I feel like they have one of the most dynamic kids in Cale Kleinschmidt, who's a really good player. Osceola with Carson Watts, Bryce Reed in the backfield there. They've got a really potent backfield and a line that's led by Kyle Stirrup. They've got some really great playmakers there. Dankert, the quarterback for Kennesaw, is a really good player. I've seen a lot of D2 this year, so I feel like I can rattle some of these off. And then again, Central Valley, 1 through about 14, 15 guys they're playing. They're really solid.
That's the one that, not the traditional kind of, team that's talked about in the playoffs, but them doing what they did to St. Francis last night that's an eye-opener for, I think, other people. Yeah, I totally agree. So that is the D2 bracket again. This will be reseeded after these opening round games, which will take place on Thursday, and then we'll go into this 1 to 16 reseed, which does not take geography into account for the rest of the playoffs here in 8-man. So we'll be back. Class A will be up. We're back with A. We haven't seen the bracket yet in A.
We'll be talking about it.
We'll get
it
that.
Just got delivered. So we will be back with A to run through the 8 byes and then the first round matchups, which will be this Friday here on the NSA Football Selection Show.
Truck Center Companies, keeping America's truck industry on the road.
At Pump and Pantry, the only thing more surprising than our variety of name brand snacks is the variety of people who walk through our front doors. And at this point, nothing you ask for surprises us. From tube chips, tri-cornered tortilla crisps, icing bluffs, pressurized buttery corn puffs, meat missiles, small people covered in sour crystals, protein cocoon, pizza chews, tree sprites, chocolate stripes, stuff we can't advertise. Sweet, salty, also sour. Adolescent jet power. No matter who you are or what you're craving, we got it. Pump up your day at Pump and Pantry.
It's thanks to you that we're where we are today. We're proud to watch these communities grow because they're our communities too. Our neighbors, our friends. It's where we live. These are all our hometowns. And no matter what, the people who will continue to serve your needs with the hometown support you know and trust are just down the street. Cornerstone Bank. Growing together.
Okay, we are back. They've waited long enough.
We're back.
Right? They've waited long enough.
Yeah.
So we have the Class A bracket in hand. We are building the
It's right
first
here.
round. Building the first round matchups right now. Producer Eric Allgood has been doing triple, quadruple
Work right
now. Work. So we appreciate your patience with us as we build these brackets. But right now,
Do you want to go from 8 to 1? Let's do that.
We're gonna go
Build
from
some suspense.
suspense. Well, the pictures are coming up right now.
Oh, never mind. All right.
And so it's
too late.
One giant graphic.
All right,
So let's
that's
just
great.
lay it down. Your number 1 seed in Class A is Bellevue West.
Defending champs.
Defending champ
Bellevue West.
Thunderbirds. They've knocked down everybody that has been set in front of them this year. It's been a really weird year for Coach Huffman's team and how many games they've missed. Would they end up playing 6?
Missed
Is that
and
right?
tried to play and
Yep.
redo and yep.
And
Bellevue West number
Bellevue
1
West,
overall.
the overall number 1, and just as dominant, the number 2, Omaha West Side, has had a heck of a season. And I think, Mike, everybody in the state would really like to see this rematch happen. And,
I would.
And we've set it up so that it can, and that's
Yeah.
really all that matters is that it gets decided on the field. West Side will be the 2 seed in the Class A bracket.
Let's touch
Your
on that
thoughts?
real quick. As you look at the bracket, Bellevue West had the better. This is what I think the committee decided.
Mm-hmm.
Bellevue West had the better win over the higher seeded team.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it, like if you look at schedules, so I think that probably played a lot into it. I do.
Yeah, that goes into our 3rd
Yeah.
seed, which is Millard South.
Yeah.
And so the other thing I think you and I have discussed this over the last 24 hours is, do you want Bellevue West and Millard
You
South
don't.
to have to play again before the finals? And
You
we've
don't.
avoided
Yeah.
that again as well. So Millard South is the 3 seed, their lone loss, obviously, to Bellevue West. Undefeated Lincoln Southeast is the 3 seed. And they
4.
have, I'm sorry, the 4 seed.
Yeah.
My bad. They have wins over Creighton
East.
Prep and Lincoln East, who are both going to get buys here that you see on your screen. I have an intriguing quarterfinal matchup if it were to come to fruition with Lincoln Southeast and Elkhorn South. Creighton Prep is the 6, Lincoln East the 7, and Gretna the 8. So,
Yeah.
quick thoughts from you running down anything that intrigued you there.
Yeah, I wonder if the Gretna Southeast game not being played maybe factored a little bit into that.
Mm-hmm.
If Gretna were to win, obviously I think that would flip some things around. Or if they
Or does
would have,
Southeast get the 3?
yeah, or
They win
Southeast
possibly.
moves up maybe
Yeah.
if they win that game. So not playing that game maybe had an effect. If you look at it and a quarterfinal matchup, if you just take the seeds, potential quarterfinal matchup between Elkhorn South and Southeast, that might be 10-7. I mean, both teams run the ball and like to run the ball. Both have good lines and all that. I think that'll be interesting. And a potential Lincoln East West Side matchup in a quarterfinal, I think would be pretty fun too. Both have fantastic quarterbacks. Walters for East and Cole Payton, who does everything and is phenomenal. That would be pretty intriguing. So I do think West Side has a chip on their shoulder, and they probably will after seeing where they're seated here too. So which should should be some pretty fun. Bellevue West getting the 1, defending champs, and like I said, I think I'm speaking for the committee. I don't know. I haven't talked to anyone about it, but I'm guessing that Bellevue West beating Millard South weighed heavily in that decision.
Yeah, I would agree. Mike, we've talked about Bellevue West and West Side. If you were to pick any of these other 6, or maybe even someone who's farther down the bracket, who else could get to the finals and maybe pull that upset? I really, the style of Lincoln Southeast seems to me to be a game where if they could get one and muck it up, they might be able to maybe beat Bellevue West.
I think Elkhorn South has been playing great.
Yeah.
Great, because they're finally fully got their full complement of players. They lost to Millard South without week 2.
17-14 game.
Yeah, they lost a 3-point game to Millard South without their 2 best defenders in Mekhi Nelson Douglas and Bo Weisler. Both are back and healthy. They also didn't have a starting quarterback, Dylan Krause. So I think you look at Elkhorn South as a team that might have something to prove. But like I said, the best sort of potential quarterfinal matchup for me, I think, is that Elkhorn Southeast game if they were to advance and win and win their first games after a bye next week. So those were kind of the 8 that I think we all, everyone, all the observers really thought deserved to be the 8. It's just a matter of how and where and which way. Prep getting the 6 above Gretna and East is a little maybe surprising, but they've played pretty well down the stretch here. Beat North Platte, which obviously I think they're a top 10-ish team, so went on the road and did that.
The one that really propelled them is that miracle comeback they had against Miller West. They're probably not sitting in this spot right now if they don't get that one.
And it's intriguing. Like the Miller South Prep, 2 different styles, kind of going at it. Gretna Bellevue West, that game might last 4 hours because a lot of passes happen in both those teams. If it happens that far out. So it's interesting. It'll give people a lot to talk about with the Bellevue West being the one. I think that's maybe surprising to some people.
Yeah. Eric, are we ready for the rest of the bracket? Almost. He's giving us. We should keep talking. Okay. So we're going to be giving you 9 through 24 here.
Yeah. By the way, there are some potential fantastic.
We see some teams that could move.
Yeah,
maybe they could
there's
move
some
through,
potential fantastic second round matchups.
Yeah,
too.
so we're going to take a quick break. We're finalizing up the rest of those opening round matchups, which will be this coming Friday, and we'll bring those to you right after the break.
Truck Center Companies, keeping America's truck industry on the road.
At Pumpkin Pantry, the only thing more surprising than our variety of name brand snacks is the variety of people who walk through our front doors. And at this point, nothing you ask for surprises us. From tube chips, tri-cornered tortilla crisps, icing bluffs, pressurized buttery corn puffs, meat missiles, small people covered in sour crystals, protein cocoon, pizza chews, tree sprites, chocolate stripes, stuff we can't advertise. Sweet, salty, also sour, adolescent jet power. No matter who you are or what you're craving, we got it. Pump up your day at Pumpkin Pantry.
It's thanks to you that we're where we are today. We're proud to watch these communities grow because they're our communities too. Our neighbors, our friends. It's where we live. These are all our hometowns. And no matter what, the people who will continue to serve your needs with the hometown support you know and trust are just down the street. Cornerstone Bank. Growing together.
Midland's mission is to inspire people to learn and lead in the world with purpose.
We are back, ready to release the rest of the bracket, Mike, in Class A. In the first quarter of the bracket that we're going to put up is the top with Bellevue West. You can see they are the number 1 overall seed, and Gretna earned the other bye there as the 8 seed. So the 16-17 game is Lincoln North Star versus Lincoln Southwest. So North Star officially the home team there, but doesn't really matter, I suppose, who just a jersey color game there too. And then Kearney was the 9 seed, so the last team kind of considered for a bye, it looks like, was the Bearcats, and they will host Lincoln Northeast. Kearney's an interesting one, aren't they, Mike?
Yeah, very. I'm guessing that Southwest North Star game will be a 7 o'clock at Seacrest because it doesn't look like, any of the other Lincoln teams will have a home game. But Kearney's the interesting one, right? So they get the 9. And there was some talk about maybe, hey, they might have been jumped into that 8 spot. They have the two best losses.
Yeah.
Lost to Southeast week 1.
Lost to West Side.
And I guess, okay, 3.
Lost to
West Side.
Yep.
Their Southeast loss was an interception in the end zone to basically lose the game. And then they just lost in overtime on Thursday night to Elkhorn South, which is a top 5 seed too. So and lost to West Side. I mean, their strength of schedule or wild card points, which is one of the factors that the committee talked about, and we'll get to that as far as what went into or what the committee was supposed to use as a guide. We'll talk about that. But Kearney, if they get by Northeast, which I think everyone sort of assumes, and playing Gretna is pretty interesting. That would be a very interesting matchup. Very intriguing game.
Yeah, let's keep the screenshot there, Eric, and let's talk about this committee really quick, Mike. Yeah. So we had 5 Class A athletic directors: Jason Ryan, Papillion La Vista; J.J. Tochek, Lincoln Southeast; Jordan Cudney, North Platte; Dr. Dan Schinzel from Creighton Prep, and Ben Reese from Norfolk. They were kind of the committee that met this morning with Nate Newhouse. They had many things at their disposal, one being the wild card points as they were without the benefit of the replacement games. They had all the replacement games in front of them.
Should have been in there too.
Game like Lincoln Southeast Kearney, which didn't count. Then each school was allowed to submit one ranking 1 to 23 without their school in it.
Every high school, high school coach.
That was taken into account, and then they look at head-to-head, and then there were a few select media that were able to compile a ballot, and that was kind of one little portion of the process as well. So I talked to Nate Newhouse last week, and he thought that was going to be a great group that worked together.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of arguments or anything. It looks like they did a great job as you look at seeding this whole thing. But in a season like this season, this was what Class A came up with. I think it's a great idea to get everybody in here.
I would like to see it going forward, honestly. Just do away with wild card points and do this, because it's a little more intriguing. It's fun. It takes the human, what you see with your eyes versus just strength of schedule stuff. I mean, it's part of that is a factor, and I think that should matter because that's how I guess I would do it. It's me, but they did a good job. There's not a lot of complaints. You can't really, if you look down the list here, you can't really complain a lot about it. Kearney, yes, they have a losing record, but they played the toughest schedule I ever played.
For sure, probably played the most difficult schedule in Class A. So we're going to slide now down to the West Side bracket, which includes West Side as a bye and Lincoln East as a bye, Mike, and North Platte. Great season for the Bulldogs. They are the 10 seed. They just beat Millard West last night, which kind of probably got them.
That 10 seed. That locked them kind of into that. I thought they'd be, if they beat Millard West, I thought they'd be, that 9-10-ish range, and that's what happened.
So great season for the Bulldogs. They're going to host Lincoln High on Friday, and then the other game on this side of the bracket is Grand Island, who's the 15 seed. They beat Norfolk last night. They actually get a regular season rematch. For their first game of the year was with Lincoln Pius in early September, after they had kind of been in quarantine and lost their Kearney game early. So Grand Island is the 15 seed. They will get to host that game with Lincoln Pius, and then they would bracket into West Side. Does anything in this one come out at you? North Platte Lincoln East could be a really nice
matchup
game as part of a possible doubleheader.
Totally different styles in that game. So weather may play a factor in who might win that game or how it goes. But I think in a 7-10 matchup, you never really know. North Platte's had a really nice season, and if you look at it, it's North Platte. A potential North Platte East matchup would be kind of fun, and that might end up being 4:30 or something at Seacrest.
You look at probably a doubleheader, obviously there at Seacrest Field on
potentially
Friday, the 30th of October. So we'll slide up, Eric, to the 3 seed Millard South, and they will bracket with Creighton Prep, who received the other bye. There's some intrigue. You get the 2 other Millards in here, but Millard West is going to host Bellevue East. Bellevue East just had a nice win on Thursday. And Millard West, they played probably, you put their schedule right next to Kearney's.
Yeah.
And they're the 14 seed, and Millard North is the 11 who beat Norfolk. One of the things that the committee had to obviously weigh is that Millard West win early in the season over Millard North. But the Wildcats have struggled since then against that tough schedule. And so Millard North, with their win over Fremont, is bumped up to the 11 seed.
Yeah, they handled them.
Yeah.
And that was probably something where if Fremont would have won, like that was a potential kind of swing game on
Right.
where teams would go, if it would be, or 11, 12, or maybe even a 10 or something like that, depending on the team that won that game. So Millard North is this very scary one here.
Yeah.
Like, very, very scary one. One, obviously, Coach Petito and his crew have been there, done that, won games with going into the playoffs being 500 or right at, and they are playing great. And I think the Lincoln East win sort of had propelled them into now they've won, 4 in a row or something to end the year here. They would be the scary one as if you look at it, if they handle Norfolk and potentially play Prep. There might be a lot of people taking Millard North to beat Prep in that game. I would think that might be a thing. Bellevue East, Millard West is pretty interesting. Bellevue East, like you said, had that nice win against Papillion. Papillion was without some guys, but doesn't matter. Still, got to go with who won. Mm-hmm. And then, obviously a potential matchup of Millard West and Millard South, which no love lost in that one if that were to happen. Battle of Q Street again ×2 this year.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And then the last piece of the bracket here, as we slide up to Lincoln Southeast, the 4, and Elkhorn South, the 5, the outstate Papillion side of things. So Fremont at 12 is going to host Papillion La Vista South, who is the 21. Fremont gets the 12. Columbus is the 13, and they will host Papillion La Vista. Columbus had our eyes open for a long time on Thursday night, didn't they, Mike?
Yeah.
The Discoverers, could they give Lincoln Southeast maybe a little run for their money?
Possibly? I think they could give them a game for sure. I mean, they gave Bellevue West a game for. I mean, that was tied at halftime. It was crazy. So, Columbus is a very dangerous team. Their offense is different. It's not anything you normally see. If they beat Papillion. If Papillion's fully healthy and has everybody, I could see Papillion winning that. They have enough athletes and talent. If everyone is back and playing, and they could. Papillion South and Fremont, I think, is a pretty interesting game. Papio South is playing better. Had a nice effort against Prep on Thursday night. Papillion and Papillion South at 20 and 21. It's kind of like, Papio beat Papio South, so that's probably why that happened there. But Fremont likes to throw the ball around a little bit, has a really nice running back. So that Papio South Fremont game is, if you're looking at it like that'd be a pretty good game to go to on Friday night. Yeah,
and you look at Fremont and Millard North, and then Grand Island at 15. Fremont got Grand Island 22-21 in overtime, and Millard North got Grand Island 38-35 in double overtime.
Right.
So that's kind of how you kind of stack those teams up. So
I'll go back to, if you just look at it. I mean, the team that, if you look at outside of the top 8 seeds, the team that you could maybe see making a run is Millard North.
Yep.
I mean,
I think Kearney too.
I think Kearney and Millard North, I think could both make a run here just by looking at the matchups. I feel strongly those will be the teams that people say that don't have the buys that could make a move here. I think those are the two. Kearney and Millard North are the two that people will look at and be like, I could see them making it to the quarterfinal or semifinal or something like that.
Yeah. Let's take one more break, Eric. We'll come back, do a quick wrap up, and then everybody can get on Twitter and start telling us who's going to win these football games. We'll be back here on the NSAA Football Playoff Bracket Release Show here in 1 minute.
Truck Center Companies, keeping America's truck industry on the road.
Midland's mission is to inspire people to learn and lead in the world with purpose.
All right, we are back on the NSAA football playoff bracket release show. Just 3 classes. Mike, we got 4 more that we're going to get next week, and maybe you and I can do this again and see how it goes. But next week we'll have the final regular season games in B, C1 and C2, and 6-man. You got to get 6-man in there.
6-man, sorry.
And so we'll have 4 brackets released next week as well. Quick thoughts on A, and if I'm Mike Sautter, what am I doing this Friday night? Is there one you that intrigues you in Class A, or are you a Norris Waverly guy on Friday?
Norris Waverly might be. I think if I'm looking for a game, it's likely Papio South Fremont or Columbus Papillion La Vista if the Monarchs are have their full complement.
Yep.
I think that one. Those two are intriguing.
Mm-hmm. Millard West, Bellevue West. I know Millard West is battling just a ton of injuries right now, and like you said, Millard North is someone you've kind of got your eye on, your eye on as well.
Yeah.
We know following you, your emphasis is Division I recruiting.
Right.
But if people are watching this as this transitions through this Class A bracket, and you had to say, 1 or 2 players from maybe the top 3 seeds. Let's go there, because I know you could talk about this for an hour. And we don't have that long.
Only
but
3.
Just some players, and maybe even some that, hey, they're just getting some recruiting recognition, and it might be one that could up their stock through these playoffs.
Well, I'll just start with one. Bellevue West is, obviously the 1 seed, so I'll start with them. Their wide receiver crew is phenomenal, and obviously gets a ton of attention. So outside of, your Keegan Johnsons, who's committed to Iowa, who had 15 catches the other night for 255 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's just crazy. Outside of him, you have Mike O'Reilly, Caden Helms are 2 kind of inside or slot receivers. They're big tight end targets. Davon Hall is a freshman wide receiver. But their quarterback, Luke Johansson's had a nice year and kind of taken over the reins as the lead dog there. L.J. Richardson, the running back, is a patient runner, can pound you up the middle, has enough speed to break away on the outside, can catch the ball out of the backfield too. But 2 linemen, I guess, that I'd like a lot for them is Caden Camise, the defensive lineman, and Henry Rickles, the offensive guard. Both underclassmen, both we will see their names as far as recruiting stuff is concerned coming here shortly. Those are some guys. Jack McDonald, Kier on the defensive side. CJ Lillenkamp has had a phenomenal year. And
you're going to be up to 22 guys here pretty soon.
I'm just saying for both those guys. But Jack McDonald's fantastic. He's great.
Really impressed with him last year.
And was All-State guy and returner. At West Side, they got 5 Division I guys or whatever right now.
Yep.
Cole Payton is a stud, absolute stud. Showed it last night. And headed to North Dakota State or committed to North Dakota State. There's just a lot of people. My phone got text last night about, hey, why is Nebraska or other schools not on him? And I'm like, well, that's a great question. So Cade Haberman is committed to Northern Illinois. He's one of, if not the best lineman, plays both ways.
Yep.
Their line's actually pretty good, not outside of him too. So Avante Dickerson, didn't even talk about him yet, committed to Minnesota, one of the better defensive backs. Kobe Brett's committed to Nebraska. Dom Rezak, running back. He's getting some recruiting attention. He came on the scene, kind of burst on the scene, if you will. Their leading rusher, running back. Ben Radisha is a really nice linebacker for them, kind of a banger. Raul Kalani is a really nice player that plays on the outside linebacker and can play some running back and get you some yards that way too. I'm probably missing a bunch of names there. So that's the 2 teams. Millard South, really intrigued to see what they do. TJ Urban's committed to Air Force as a quarterback. Feels like they're starting to play Gage Stenger a little more at quarterback and moving Urban to more of a wide receiver running back and kind of splitting time there. And Gage is a great athlete, multi-sport kid. Jack Nicolaisen, Bo Wint, their offensive line or their linemen are 2 really good guys. Rucker at defensive end is a really nice player too. I'm just doing it off the top of my head, so sorry. Forgetting a guy for them that I wanted to mention. Antrell Taylor, all kind of everything wide receiver for them is a really nice player, and defending state champion wrestler, tough as nails guy. For Lincoln Southeast, Jake Applegate is fantastic. He can go up and get a ball as a defensive back / safety and a wide receiver. There's another Gifford there that's playing really well too. He's another guy. Maddox Burton's a guy. Derek Branch is a guy for them. Tavion Thompson's a really nice athlete for them as well. Gatula is a young lineman that's really good for Southeast. Elkhorn South, their offensive line I think gets a lot of attention, mainly because Teddy Prohaska is going to Nebraska, but Isaac Zadiska, for my money, is fantastic and deserves some more recruiting attention. Cooper Taylor is a 3-year starter. All 3 of those guys are 3-year starters for Elkhorn South on the offensive line. Talked about Makai Nelson Douglas earlier. Makai is committed to Northern Illinois and likely probably their best defender, and can rush a passer, can drop him back as a linebacker, safety, and coverage, can really do a lot of different things. They have 2 really good running backs that are sophomores. Ben Warren's a guy that can come in and make some plays. Dylan Krause, I think, fits that what they like to do really well too, and running the ball with the quarterback.
This guy.
So 5 is
mind blown.
That's 5.
We'll be here all day, man.
I'm going through all of the top 8. You said Creighton Prep. AJ Rollins gets the most attention at tight end. He's committed to Nebraska.
Kicker.
Patrick Foley's committed to Arkansas as a kicker, or as a punter, but punter for them. Millard South is another guy. Cole Lammel's a kicker that's really nice for them too, and is good. Prep is AJ Rollins is their main kind of guy, but Alex Bullock is a dude that I would have on my team any day, all day, every day of the week. Kid just makes plays. He's a worker and has likely the best hands. I mean, he catches everything. So really tough kid there, and that's a couple guys for Prep. East, like I said, Noah Walters, and them at quarterback, he's great. He's a baseball player too, multi-sport guy. Carter Glenn, I hope something can happen with that shoulder, because he was having a phenomenal season as a wide receiver for them, and then he got hurt in that Millard North game, and they were actually winning that game by handily, and then he got hurt, and it kind of just went shoo. So that's how important he is to them. And the 8 seed Gretna is just a couple guys real quick. Jackson Alexander and Trevor Marshall. Their 2 wide receivers have had great years and averaging, over 10 yards a catch. So they're making big plays. Alexander just got a Nebraska walk-on offer. And Zane Flores, the quarterback, a sophomore. He's very much so legit.
All right.
And the Garcia kid at the line is on their line is a younger guy too that is likely a recruiting attention kind of guy. Going to start seeing that a little bit. But Flores at quarterback changes the game totally for them if he's having a good night.
So we've got 8-man coming up this Thursday. Mike, we pencil you in for Humphrey doubleheader?
Maybe.
Yeah,
we'll
pencil.
See. Yeah, we'll see.
Pencil, not pen yet, and we'll take a look. I kind of got Hemingford and Nebraska Christian on my radar there for looking at D1 West. Yeah, so D1 West. You got Burwell, Dundee County, Stratton, the top two that shootout up there. They would be the 3 and the 4 seeds on a reseed. On the other side, D1 East. Tri-County and Cross-County, 4 undefeateds in that class. I think they've kind of risen to the top, set themselves apart from everybody else. So it'll be interesting to see how, again, we talked about the bottom of that bracket and how it shakes out in the reseed. Same thing happens in D2.
The D1, if that reseed, if that's Cross-County, Burwell, if that ends up happening in a semifinal, wow. Yeah,
it's going to be, that'll be a really good one.
Yeah.
And Dundee County, Stratton, and Tri-County will be fantastic too. And then you flip over to D2, the top 4 seeds over there. You got Sacred Heart, BDS are 1 and 2, and then Central Valley, the 3. Why Not is the 4. Again, we talked about the middle of that bracket, St. Francis, Osceola, Kennesaw, Bloomfield, Pleasanton in that 8 to 12 range, and that they could have some something to say about what happens in that reseed. So we'll have D2 qualifying and D1 qualifying round games on Thursday. Class A will open up Friday night, and then we'll get 4 more brackets next Saturday for B through C2. We want to thank the NSAA staff, Nate Newhouse, Jeff Stouse, Jay Beller. Mike, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Marcus Shear worked on our graphics, helped us out with those. And again, our sponsors who allow us to come and do this, Truck Center Companies, Pump and Pantry, Cornerstone Bank, and Midland University. Until hopefully next Saturday, we'll see you again. This has been the NSAA Playoff Bracket Release
Thanks
Show.
to the committee for doing the A bracket too. That's a lot of work and putting yourself out there a little bit.
And doing it really well.
Yeah,
too.
did a good job.
Very good. Thanks again, and we hope to be back next Saturday with our other 4 brackets.